Hello there. Welcome back. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. As I was growing up, I used to watch Bob Ross a lot on public television. So today I'd like to make a video of myself painting while watching Bob Ross make a painting. As you can see, I like to use a vertical palette next to my painting so I can see the colors right next to my canvas that I'm mixing. The colors I'll be working with today are Ivory Black, Phthalo Blue, Cadmium Red Medium, Alizarin Crimson, Cadmium Yellow Medium, and Titanium White. I use a pretty limited palette, and that allows me to have an easier pathway to color harmony. So let's get started. Grab your canvas, whatever size you got, and I'm just going to take a little bit of linseed oil here, and I'm going to just gloss it over the surface quite quickly. And this is just to make the surface a little bit more conducive to oil paint. It'll allow the oil paint to really slide as we start painting. Once I get a little bit on there, I just take an old rag and I'm going to wipe the linseed oil into the canvas. Now, what Bob Ross used was something called liquid white, which was basically just oil and basically no pigment, which allowed you to put colors on top of it. But instead of using that, I'm just gonna get my surface a little bit wet. We don't want it too wet, but just a little bit wet with linseed oil. So it's got a bit of a shine to it. So as you can see, I've already covered my canvas with almost black gesso. You can just use acrylic paint, but this is going to allow for the colors to really, in between where I have colors, I'll have this dark, which I can use as I progress. So we're going to just start with the clouds. Grab a little bit of phthalo blue, add a little bit of oil to it. We're going to start off with these happy little clouds, as Bob would say. No need to put anything else into it, just phthalo blue. And I'm going to just add a smidgen, just a smidgen of white. Which will give it a little bit more opacity. So we're just going to put these wherever we want, wherever we see them. This is about a 1-inch brush, as you can see. And I'm just making tiny little circles here. Just little circles. Keep them going. Keep them going. We're working very loosely. Well, so you can see when we have a wet canvas and our paint's a little bit wet, it allows us to really blend quite quickly. So as we continue, I'm just going to make it a little bit lighter towards the horizon, where our horizon's going to be. Still keeping very loose. And let's add some water here. Water is going to be a really simple thing to paint all doing this with one brush. We can go over these later. We'll just throw in some water there towards the bottom. Important to work fast at this point. It's alright to be a little streaky. And just give a little ripple, just some little ripples, some little highlights on these cascading streams. There. So now that I've got these in here, I'm just going to take a dry brush. It's a chisel tip, but doesn't matter. It's just dry and soft. And I'm just going to blend out these edges. No need for hard edges anywhere right now. Just blend out these edges. When you start seeing some paint on your brush, grab a rag, dry it off. Just go back and knock down these edges. Once we have it all nice and blended, we're just going to wash our brush. So now that we have our brush clean, I'm just going to take some titanium white, a little bit of linseed oil. We're going to plop down second place with our titanium white. And we want our white to be a little bit creamy. We want it to be warm, because the sun is warm. So we add a little bit of red and just a hint of yellow. That's going to give us a real creamy color. A little bit more linseed oil. Now we're ready to just start plopping in our clouds where we see fit. Obviously you're going to pick up some of that blue. Doesn't matter. As long as you have imagination, you can kind of make up your own shapes, make up your own space. At this stage, we're keeping all of our edges nice and loose. Titanium white is very thick, so often you'll have to add quite a bit of linseed oil to it. We're just going to block in our clouds, big main shapes, and where they're going to live. As we see our color getting a little bit blue, let's take a little bit more red. Get rid of that blue. Everything is still loose at this point. Don't get too caught up on small details. Just block in these big shapes. We're going to make a little bit of a dark painting, since all of us feel a little bit dark at times. And I'm just going to have this white go straight down into our water here. And as you can see, this color underneath the canvas allows us to make some grays. Yeah. Just plop that white down in the middle. And just let it blend off into your water. Slowly just blend it off into the water. It's a good time to go back, get your larger brush, make sure it's dry, and just blend these edges out. If you have any excess thinner in the brush, make sure to just let it go. And clouds towards the horizon, they're always going to be a little bit more hazy because there's more water vapor in the air. It's called atmospheric perspective, invented by Leonardo da Vinci in his famous painting Madonna on the Rocks. So we're just going to continue to blend out these edges, keeping our clouds nice and soft. If we make something too big, we just work it into the painting. There. Now that we've got some basic clouds blocked in, you can see that our sky color is a little bit too dark because of this dark gesso I was working on. So I'm just going to take some of my sky blue, add a considerable amount, linseed oil to it. I have quite a bit of cobalt medium in my linseed oil too. Add a little bit of phthalo blue to it. I'm just going to retrace our steps here and start to put some edges on our clouds. This is just sky blue and a little bit of phthalo blue because I want it to be darker. I like to draw my landscapes at night. Some people say they look too dark, but I think they kind of capture the light nicely. So as you can see, having the darks on the cloud works pretty nicely. Let's continue to pull that sky out. Once again, grab a dry brush, make sure it's good and dry, and just knock those edges down a bit. We're going to have our clouds just kind of whisk away into the background. blend those edges out a little bit. We want to make sure to whisk these away as we get to the horizon. Just because things get a little bit blurrier. And have fun with these clouds. Let them take on whatever shape you wish. You can play around with the composition, or you can make them in shapes. Imagine that you were lying on the prairie looking up at the sky, thinking that maybe there's a bear in one of the clouds. There. And as you can see now, the black in the canvas is creating some areas that are a bit darker. So we don't even need to mix up another color. We can just grab our rag, and wherever we want things to be a bit darker, we can start just pulling them out. Of course, clouds will generally be darker on the bottom, but just start cutting out your shapes where you see those dark shapes coming into the clouds. Just start erasing. Use the eraser to make your shadows. We're not going to have a lot of really harsh shadows. These are just nice fluffy clouds on a summer afternoon up in the sky. There. So once we have these clouds in, I'm going to make sure this brush is clean because I only have one brush. If I was better off, I'd have more than one. And I'm just going to clean this brush, and we're going to go back in, put some more highlights on those clouds. So I've just mixed up a little bit of white again, added a little bit of red and yellow to it to get it a little bit creamy. And I'm going to start making my highlights on my clouds. Just like that. Start adding some highlights. If you get a little bit of blue on your brush, which you inevitably will, just pinch it off with a rag and get some more white. Mix up another pile. It's all about keeping your brush clean and having fun. Getting a little bit dirty, so clean the brush. A little bit more white, a little bit more orange, red and yellow. Just continue to pop those in. As clouds get to the horizon, they're always going to get less clear, and less white. The ones towards the top of your painting are always going to be crisper and bigger. This guy's kind of becoming our big main cloud, isn't he? Now I'm just going to start blending. Same technique as always. I'm going to blend off these hard edges and soft edges. Because in the end, that's all clouds are. Have a hard edge here, and you have a soft edge underneath it. Pick out where you want your hard edges. Figure out where you want your soft edges. Always going to be a mix with clouds. Again, we're just trying to keep loose. Hopefully that'll come through in our painting. Stay relaxed. Your painting should be relaxed. It's when we get nervous that our lines start looking unsure. Our painting starts looking a bit wonky. So you just want to stay real slow and easy. Soft edges versus the hard edges. Just want to make sure my sky is nice and flat, so I'm grabbing my dry brush. I'm going to make my sky all go in one direction now. We don't want it going down and all around. We want our sky to be one direction. One direction for our sky. And now we can start bringing some of that blue. Don't be afraid. Just with our brush, we're just going to tap in some of that blue into our cloud. And just some reflection. Don't be afraid. Let's get these little poof balls a little bigger. Tap in a little blue. About a clouds also get smaller as they get towards the horizon. So let's put a couple really little wispy ones there at the end. There. Now we're just gonna really warm up our clouds. Take a little bit of red and yellow, really make an orange, just add it to your white. A little bit more yellow for that sunlight. One thing to always remember, your palette should resemble your painting. We're just going to drag this yellow into our clouds. Give them a little bit of give them a little bit of warm versus cools. Our eyes like that sort of thing. They like to see warm colors up against cool colors. So just kind of drag these oranges through your paint. Just dabs here and there. Just want to let all that blue know that we've got some orange to make it pop, give it a little bit more life. There. And as always, get the dry brush clean as you can get it. Just knock these edges down a bit. You see a place that needs more white? Now's the time. Dab it in. Still just playing with hard edges and soft edges. These little guys. And if you need some more darks, just pull them out with your rag. Should be able to start seeing these clouds really come to life now. Dry your brush. Soften those edges. There. You're going to grab a little bit of white and mix it just with a little bit of red, like this pink. I'm going to use that on the top of our clouds. Tops of our clouds can be a little bit harder. Just plop down a little bit of that pink. Now the bottom of our clouds, we can blend a bit more. So we go back to our soft brush. We're just going to blend out the bottom of these clouds. Blend up into the cloud a bit if you want. But the real bright spots will be on the top of our clouds. So just very gently blend up from the sky into that cloud. As you can see now, we've created a nice little sky. So what we're going to do now is just get our palette knife. I have a really small one here. I'm going to take a little bit of my ivory black, mix it with some red. It's going to turn it a violet brown. Take a little bit of yellow. We don't want it too green, so grab a little bit more red. And now load it up, and we're just going to plop in a little mountain here. Once we get our mountain, gonna go back, grab our dry brush. Just pull it on out. Always remember we want the bottom of our mountain to be more blended than the top. This is a little bit too much in the center, so I'm going to make sure to put another little mountain behind it. Just so we have a little bit more variation in our painting. Just blend it out as you go down. Now that we've got our mountain, I'm just going to grab a little bit smaller brush. Make sure it's clean. I got all these different rags here. And I'm just going to grab a little bit of titanium white. Titanium white is very powerful, and I don't want to add much linseed oil to it because I want it to stay sticky. And we're just going to drag this titanium white over one side of our mountain. Clean the brush, grab some more white. Drag it over that mountain. Put some snow on that crest. Use the canvas. I'm just barely touching the canvas. Barely touching. Bob would use a palette knife for this. I found I just can't really use it. I'm just going to continue to just drag. Clean up the edges later with the sky. Just drag some nice chunks where that snow is going to be. There. Now once we got that side, we're going to take a little bit of blue, mix it with our black, blue and black. We're going to hit on some of these shadows. Let's make our shadows a little bit more blue. Cleaning our brush whenever we get that white in there. Just plop down some shadows wherever we see fit. Blue shadows. Just to give a little bit of variation on our mountain. Sometimes they're too blue. I'm going to grab a bigger brush. Where's my bigger brush? And I'm actually going to change the direction of some of these lights. So our lights are going in one direction. Don't be afraid to grab a little bit more white. Just plop that down. I'm going to mix up just a gray now. Just gray. Finish off some of these edges with a little bit of gray. Some small little reflections coming in there. Put some gray on the inside of that mountain. There. Once I got these in, just going to take another soft brush, totally dry. Just blend out these edges, just a tinge, just a little bit. Because they are far away. We're not going to see a lot of hard edges. This mountain's far off in the distance. So just blend out these edges a little bit into your sky, into your clouds. Wherever you see a hard edge, just blend it out a bit. I'm actually seeing that I'm missing a bit of white. Be nice if I had more than one brush, but just in some of these areas you can add a bit more white just to get some more contrast. Let's add some white and then just blend it out. Make that mountain ridge. I'm not from a place with many mountains, so just making this up in my head as I go along. But we have one definite light source. some tracks this way too that you can ski down in. And just blend those edges out. And you know, we have all this nice sun. I'm going to actually take a little bit of this orange that we made before. I'm just going to give it a little bit of life, just like we did with our clouds. Just a little bit of that orange sun. Tamping down into our mountain here. Blend out that orange too. There. Noticing these clouds in the background, they're too hard. So I'm going to soften those edges up too. Dry brush. Just go on both sides of the cloud. Pull it out. It'll give you that illusion that it's farther away. Good. Now I've noticed that Bob likes to really let these mountains sit. They kind of look like they're floating in their own space. So I'm going to get a little bit more of this white, add a little bit of that orange, make my creamy white color, and we're going to have the cloud just kind of come on into our mountain there. We're going to do the same on this side. Just going to let one of these clouds so we really can't differentiate between these two areas. Got our mountain here, got our cloud sitting right on top of it. Of course, as we go to the horizon, our horizon's going to get lighter. I'm going to lighten all this area up. Lighten this blue up too. Just let this misty cloud come right up in front. There. Now we want to put some evergreen trees in the back. I'm going to grab a little bit of cadmium yellow, add some white, using my big brush again, a little bit of medium. We're just going to start cutting these foothills in this direction, however you see fit. The direction is going to be important. We're imagining trees now, so we're all working in this up and down direction. But we're not working working on every single tree. Add a little bit of black to it. Get some variation in there. So once we got this plopped in, we're going to add a little bit more white because we need this mist in between and right at the base, just with little X's. I'm going to plop down some of this white. Just go at the base of this layer. Just adding white. Once we have it plopped in, get our dry brush, blend out the edges. Finish it in the same direction, up and down as the trees. Yep. Now that we have this layer, we're going to just get some more black. And we're just going to make things darker as they come closer to us. A little bit of yellow, cadmium yellow. You can see this is a little darker. And we're just going to cut out this shape as we go towards ourselves now. Everything's getting a little bit darker as we come closer and closer. And all I got here is yellow and black. Tinge red if you want. Again, you don't have to worry about each tree. As you can see, we're just going for big shapes. And just because, in particular, I'm gonna just take some of this red. I'm gonna liven up, just like we did here with the yellow or the orange and blue. I'm gonna add a little bit of this complementary color to this layer, just to liven it up a bit. So we're just going to make another foothill here. A little bit more black. Just want to make a color darker than this one. This is why it's nice to paint next to it. We can always see the colors here. Just plop down a darker color here as we come forward. And you can see how that mistiness at the base is really going to separate these two. Once again, as we get to the base, just take a little bit of white. Blend out the bottom. Get our dry brush. We really just want to say this is in front of this, which is in front of this at this point. There. Now that we got this part done, we're going to want to plop in some evergreens. As we come closer, we're going to put a couple evergreens, and of course as we get closer we can see that they're much larger. So now we're going to go really dark, almost black. I'm going to use the big brush to mix my color. Just adding a tinge of yellow to black, getting this dark green, getting a smaller brush, and we're just going to plop in an evergreen tree here. See, as we go to the base, just get fatter and fatter. Just let your brush just plop all over the place here now. If we have one evergreen, you can always have a little friend. And there behind him. See how that black makes it look closer. Makes it come forward in space. Plop in another little guy there. Once again, if we got green, you can always add a little bit of red. Just plop it around. Just a little bit, just hints of red. Give some variation for your eye. Once we got these blocked in, we're going to make a really bright green. The brightest green we've used so far. So add more blue and a lot more yellow. Get a really nice and bright green. We're just going to tap in just quickly. Some highlights onto this tree. Just quickly here. And don't think too much. Keep your marks loose. And just tapping in these highlights. Off and around these trees, we want to keep the base here dark, but in front of that, get a little bit more yellow, it's cadmium yellow. We can just imagine some grassy type stuff growing in front of these trees. As we get to the base of the grass, it's going to get darker. The opposite of the mist. Get to the base of the grass, go darker. Now, all these grays, I'm starting to not like these grays. So I'm going to mix up kind of a brown and liven up some of these areas a little bit more. I know they're supposed to be dark, but Go to the base, get darker at this base. Be sharper in our movements, darker. It's just black. Take a little bit more yellow, make a bright orange. It'll be kind of like some mud. And see how that orange really is going to liven up everything quickly. And take it down with some black. This can be some mud, this could be some dead grass, whatever. And he had a body of water here, but what I'm going to do is just blend this out. Make a little bit dark base here where it would match. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow, white, and we're going to imagine this is just kind of like a bit of prairie, some dead grass blending in there. I'm not going to do the water. These colors are too similar, so I want to make sure that we know they're different. Let's add a little bit more yellow. We'll add a little bit more green here. We're going to strengthen this base a little bit more. Kind of painting all over the painting now. Make sure not to make everything too gray. Points on these evergreens can be really sharp. Some of these foothills just aren't working for me. Let's blend these tops out. Just blend them into the sky. Again, with this orange, we can just add a little bit of orange to the sky. Let's get some variation in that blue. Just a tinge. Give it a little bit more life. My biggest brush I've got, and I'm just going to load it up with black. Just straight up black at this point because I know there's a lot under here. And remember we had black underneath when we started off, so I'm going to start off by just pulling out a place where I imagine a big tree going on this side. can just cut that tree out, give him a little friend, as Bob Ross would say. And this is going to be in front of this, so it's going to be even darker now. That's why I wanted to make sure anything in the background was taken out. So I ran out of battery in my other camera. So now we're just going to plop this tree in. Again, we're going very, very dark. Probably see some almost totally black at this point. For these trees. And we're going to take some yellow. Just plop in these highlights here. Now I've changed this painting a lot from Bob Ross's version, but hopefully you can get some basic techniques out of it. I've actually never done one of these paintings. They're way more fun than I expected. I can see why people really enjoy doing them. It's really about building up these layers, you know, just misty, lighter, 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 or whoops, lightest, darker, 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 and building up this space. Better to think, you know, one thing I'm going to do different, obviously, is, not obviously, but in Bob Ross's paintings, he tends to do these really kind of imitative lines, like all these little things with grass and, you know, doing these types of scratches, which I think really takes away from the painting, so I'm not going to do that. And just keep things more abstract. Just some blobby abstract shapes that kind of look like trees, but should work. And now at this point you're just kind of finishing touches. You don't want to overwork a painting, of course, always. If you put too much work into it, it's going to start just looking like too much of a mess. Again, putting a little bit of red into my trees just to give them some more variation. And I think we're getting pretty close. Getting pretty close to the end here. I like how this orange looked here, so I'm going to Mix up some more of this. Warmer colors, of course, generally come towards the front. So if you have more oranges and this sort of stuff, maybe I'll even mix up a purple. And just get some purples in here. Keeping it really loose. Maybe even taking a little bit more yellow. I'm just loading up my brush with pure yellow. So, oops, I got a bunch of black there. Might whiten up these clouds still a little bit more. Give them a little bit more body. Just using pure white at this point. You can get a little bit thicker because we know we're not going to be painting on top of it. So this turned out to be kind of a fun little exercise. I painted, from Bob Ross when I was maybe 6 or 7, just with watercolors, and nothing ever actually worked because you can't really do this with watercolors. But, well, I was also 6. But I loved watching him growing up, and, I guess the main concept that he teaches is actually kind of cool in a lot of ways because it's just this basic idea, like I said before, of foreground, middle ground, background. So this would be foreground, this is kind of your middle ground, and this becomes your background. Like I said, some of the more imitative type things, a lot of times we associate with more amateurish kind of painting when things are, grass is supposed to look like grass and somebody goes like this and does every little piece of grass. That can become a little bit too, what's the word? It becomes too literal. And as we know with drawing, we want things to be a little bit more abstract because we don't see, symbols in the world. We see shapes. So just differentiating a little bit between these layers, making it a little bit darker. I don't know. Might be time to throw in the towel. But it's kind of cool how he does give you some basic ways to make some things that look like trees. You know, I wouldn't have thought I could paint this out of my head like this just a few minutes ago, or whatever. It took me about 90 minutes, I guess, to paint. And he's crazy fast, you know, I mean, he's just bam, bam, bam. He's going much faster because it was meant to be for a 30-minute show on TV. Let me give this guy a little bit more of a base. Cool. So, yeah, let's put a fork in it, as they say. Do we say that? Put a fork in it? No, you don't say that. But, yeah, so let's call it a day. There it is, my Bob Ross painting. More fun than I expected. Some good things can be learned from painting with Bob Ross, for sure. Besides his great life lessons about having friends and being happy and being thankful and all this sort of stuff, which is nice too. But he also teaches the basics of foreground, middle ground, and background pretty well. He teaches atmospheric perspective, and they're fun to play around with. I think the videos themselves are pretty difficult to paint to, actually, because he paints so fast that they're pretty difficult to paint along with. But I think they're good things. I'm just kind of, again, putting in some more color and some more orange into these shadows. Just to give some real differentiation. Meh. Not bad. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you like these sort of things, check out my other videos, subscribe, like the video, hit me up on Facebook, whatever. See you next time. Bye!